What's going on, guys? It's your favorite businessman, CEO Rico, on ceoricotv.com. So today, July 2nd, Diddy has been found not guilty on 3 charges, and he was found guilty on 2 charges. Now, we're going to actually do a little deep dive, and we're going to go over some reactions from a few different people, and they were extremely upset about the charges. Now, just a quick overview. So Diddy was charged with, he was found guilty on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution under the Federal Mann Act. 1 count each related to Cassie Ventura and Jane. Now, he was also acquitted on racketeering conspiracy, 2 counts of sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion. So, real quick, so the charges in the legal grounds, right? So let's just do like a little dive here. So now it says the transportation to engage in prostitution, which is, this is a part of the Mann Act. Now, real quick, in regards to the Mann Act, did you know that the Mann Act was actually passed in 1910, and it was actually called the White Slave Traffic Act, which was officially aimed at preventing interstate trafficking for prostitution, but its ambiguous term and moral purpose was weaponized against interracial relationships. That was the main basis of it. They didn't want white women dating black men, basically. Now, one of the biggest profiles in regards to that was Jack Johnson, who was a heavyweight champion during that time, and he was married to he was marrying white women, and basically they were going across state lines with him, and he got in trouble for that and actually did a year in prison because of it. So basically it was a way for the government basically to racially intervene into interracial couples relationships. It's really crazy because they're using that as the whole basis to get Diddy. Now, I know a lot of you guys probably already know that this entire thing, whether, no matter how you feel, everything it seemed like they were coming at him at, it really stemmed off of when Cassie basically filed her civil suit, which is all in itself mind-blowing because they wanted to depict him as this super monster, predator, whatever. Now, we all seen the actual video of what he did in that hotel. Now, we can all agree across the board that he was completely wrong for that, straight up. I don't believe in DV whatsoever. I don't believe in a woman putting their hands on a man or vice versa. So yes, he was definitely wrong. Let's just get that out the way. But now let's look at the actual basis of what he was being charged with and how they were actually going at him. Because remember, right before that, because you got to pay attention to how everything started to like fall in place. Before that, remember, his liquor company was not his, but he endorsed it, Ciroc. Remember, he basically was trying to get at them, and in a nutshell, they had to show him what type of time it really was. You feel me? If you feel me, right? Now, the transportation to engage in prostitution, now it says, what is it? It's a federal crime involving interstate movement of individuals for the purpose of prostitution. Now, the grounds, prosecution argued Diddy orchestrated trips and paid escorts to participate in freak-offs, pressuring Cassie and Jane into drugged, non-consensual sex sessions. Outcome, he was convicted on 2 counts of 10 years per count. Sentences is currently pending. Now, during this whole thing, now a lot of people are involved in the case, whether, they look at him, oh, he was just this big monster, oh, he was doing all these things, he was abusive, all like that. Listen, when all of the information came out in regards to Cassie, in regards to her involvement in the entire process, a lot of people want to say that she was just this huge victim. I don't believe she was. She came back and got 30 mil on top of it, 10 from the hotel, 20 from Diddy, like that. And all of a sudden she's now this grandiose, she just out of there, she's a victim. But yeah, she cheated on her current husband with Diddy after the fact, and she got a lot of perks along with it. Now listen, no matter how you feel about it, you take your emotions out of it and just look at the facts for what it is. She was not really a victim, guys. You can't claim and scream for the ability to be equal, make your own choices, you're an adult at 18, all these different things, and then turn around once you get upset or once your pockets is getting dry, coming out and said, oh, well, no, I'm actually a victim now, even though I participated in absolutely everything. Even the video that even shows where you hear Cassie saying that she's going to off somebody if they don't show a certain video to her or give her the video, that's a clear indication that there's no innocence there. Now, as far as this Jane lady, haven't really been paying attention on regards to her behalf, or, you know, because it is what it is. But he got convicted for both of those. Now, racketeering conspiracy, which is the RICO charge, right? Now, I had to actually look and see what exactly is a RICO charge. So it says what it covers is operating an enterprise, engaging in patterns of criminal activity like sex trafficking, bribery, kidnapping, and arson. He got acquitted of that. Alleged 2-decade-long criminal enterprise facilitating coercion, violence, financial transaction, drug use. The outcome, of course, he got acquitted of that. Sex trafficking by force, fraud, coercion. Forcing or deceiving individuals into commercial sex through illegal means. Now, considering the fact he was found not guilty on both counts, that's a clear indication that the freak offs and everything like that were supposed to be, you know, him forcing them to do it or whatever. That's a clear indication that nah, they participated. Even though they trying to come back and say they didn't, they participated. Now, I want to go over to, what's her name? Megyn Kelly. I want to go over to her because she kind of went off. I'm not gonna lie. She like turned up. She was extremely pissed, and I want y'all to see her feedback along with me. So let's get into it.
For up to 10 years in prison, there's no way he's going to get 10 years in prison on these two, unless you have a judge who's very, very angry for some reason. We looked at the federal sentencing guidelines, which are just recommendations. The judge doesn't have to follow them. He can go any place between 0 and 10, but we deduced that he has an offense level of about 26 points, which calls for a sentence of 5.25 years to 6.5 years in prison. The base offense level for this crime we deduced to be about 14. This is all on a sliding scale, plus you add another 4 levels because the offense may have involved coercion. Anyway, and then another 4 for causing another person to engage in a sexual act. So if they believe that, if this judge says that's what happened, he could be facing 5 or 6 years in prison on each count. They would be likely to run consecutive, although it's possible the judge could say they run one after the other, or together, congruent. So we'll see. Likely to run at the same time is my view. There's no way he's getting more than 5 years in prison. But the sentencing won't happen today. That'll happen, I believe, at another hearing. I want to bring in Phil Holloway, who's been watching this case. You know him from our coverage of the Fannie Willis matter. He's a trial attorney down in Atlanta, Georgia. And Phil, you had been feeling and predicting that we were headed for a likely NG. I realize it's not a full not guilty, but anybody who tells you this isn't a win for Diddy is lying to you. This is an absolute win for him, and that's why he's pumping his fist and smiling today. Your thoughts?
Well, thanks for having me. It's always great to be with you here, Megan. Look, this is about many things, but at the heart of this verdict, I think, is reasonable doubt. I mean, all it takes for a jury to find someone not guilty is one doubt for which a reason can be attacked.
He was younger, just got off of the Harvey Weinstein trial himself. And your reaction, Arthur, to the breaking news that Sean Combs basically won this case, but for 2 prostitution counts.
It's a tremendous victory. And here's why I'm personally happy. The prosecutor who brought the case, Damian Williams, I don't think he was a good guy. I don't think he was a good U.S. attorney in the Southern District. I think his personal ambitions just clouded his judgment. I mean, he was going around telling people quietly that he was positioning himself to run for president of the United States. And he wanted to bring down Combs. He wanted to bring down the mayor of the city of New York. That was his ambition. And the conviction rates are so high in the Southern District that once you get indicted, it's over 90% when you go to trial. So this is a huge victory for the defense, for Sean, because there's no mandatory minimum. You know, you and I spoke yesterday. All these other counts, the judge, if it was his uncle, has to send him to prison. But that's not
believed
So we're not gonna go through the whole thing. It's one particular part I want you guys to see.
I'm so confused about, here's a little bit more. New York Times, with a touch of levity, the judge said he assumed Combs would not want to return to the Brooklyn jail where he has been held. Combs shook his head vigorously and put his hands together in prayer. Oh, it's all just so chummy inside the courtroom for this disgusting pervert female abuser who I can't believe is about to roam our streets again. I'm sorry, I'm disgusted by this verdict. This is fucking ridiculous. I just find it absolutely outrageous, the amount of crime that this guy just got away with. I believe he committed arson. He definitely battered Cassie. He battered Jane too. The statute of limitations for battery in Los Angeles and California is 1 year. 1 year. So if they didn't charge him for battery within 1 year, and they couldn't because he bought the tape and it remained hidden thanks to those security guards out there, then they could never charge him with that again. There's no question. He dragged her back into that hotel room. Why wasn't that kidnapping? They only talked about the kidnapping of Capricorn Clark, who was his sort of main assistant, because she said he grabbed her and made her go with him over to Kid Cudi's house. There's no question he broke into Kid Cudi's house. And
Now, real quick, I want y'all to remember the law is not emotional. Now, it's definitely not black and white, because it definitely is some gray area in there. But what she's speaking of when she simply said when he dragged her back into the room, why wasn't that kidnapping? Let's not forget, they stayed together for a plethora of time after that incident. She continued to still participate even after that incident. And mind you, guys, the video just surfaced after the lawsuit in regards to the liquor company. That's when all of this stuff started to come out. The United States government didn't even go after Diddy until Cassie came out with the lawsuit in regards to the money that she wanted. And remember, it was a civil suit. It wasn't like a criminal suit. It was a civil suit. She just wanted money. Then that's when the government stepped in. And honestly, they only stepped in because they wanted more funding, and they had to take on a big case in order to get more funding. But let's continue.
My view, and that he opened up the Christmas presents and locked the door in and made a threat. There's no question in my mind he was behind the arson of Kid Cudi's car.
Remember, it's not about your opinion or, what you guess. It's about what you actually prove in court.
And there was proof, plenty of proof to prove that. There was female fingerprints they found on that, the firebomb that was left there, the Molotov cocktail. And the prosecution said there's no question he didn't do it himself, but he said, I'm going to bomb Kid Cudi's car. It's in writing. Cassie Ventura emailed her mother saying, oh my God, he's threatening to bomb his car. And 2 weeks later, it got bombed. Oh, gee, it was just some third party who also had, it's just like the proof was there. Yeah. The beatings, the threats that if they didn't go back into those rooms and get off with these male escorts, that they were gonna get beaten. The testimony from that Daniel Phillip, who was the male escort, who heard Combs abusing Cassie behind the door, and she was screaming, I'm sorry, as he heard him slapping her. Get back out there. She came back out. She was shaking. She got back into the escort's lap, physically shaking. She was so scared to the point where that guy couldn't perform sexually because this was so horrifying to him. What in the actual F went on in there?
So, Megan, let me just for 1 second, Phil. Let me just get Megan more pissed off, if I may.
I ain't gonna lie, man. That's some shit I say. I'm not kidding. I will say some shit like that. Like, let me get you pissed off a little bit more. But I wanted to go over to another one because, guys, all we're doing, I'm just gonna show you reactions from so many different people. Because once again, I'm gonna reiterate this. Now you're gonna hear some people say that Diddy is some people idol, and they're just so happy that their idol is back on the streets. I don't really know too many people that idolize Diddy. Not gonna lie, I for damn sure don't idolize him. I understand he a freaky man. He nasty what he do sexually or whatever, and he want dudes to touch all and rub all on his woman. More power to you as an individual if that's what you into. It is what it is. However, I still don't see the illegalness with anything. Now, once again, I want to preference it one more time. Yes, he was wrong for the DV in regards to his woman or anybody that he did have a DV with. It's wrong. However, he was not on the stand. He was not on trial for that. He was on trial for things completely different. So don't forget that, because we cannot forget that part. He was not on trial for physical abuse or, DV or anything like that. He was on trial for a Rico prostitution thing. That's what he was on trial for. So let's stick to that. Let's go over to this real quick.
There has been Judgment Day, and the jury has found Sean Diddy Combs not guilty. We're going to talk about what this means. We're going to talk about what happened. We're going to talk about what the government said, and we're going to talk about the way I feel that jury has failed us. I feel like the jury failed us. I feel like
Now, guys, here's one thing. Our system, and we know it's not perfect. I got you on that. But our system, we have, where you get judged by your peers. And you kind of got to just trust within the prosecution, your defense, and then your peers to, validate or invalidate whether you're innocent or not. However, what I'm starting to really see is there's so many women that are upset with the verdict, but it's more so they're upset because they're saying that a monster is being freed, even though he was abusing a woman and things like that. But yet, once again, it's like they're not looking at the fact of, one, the women participated. Now, I understand influence definitely does have an effect in here. However, even for the men that's crying and saying what they're saying, there's no way, shape, and form that you can wholeheartedly just go along with, well, he had influence, and because he had influence, as if they didn't have the ability to say no, as if they didn't have the ability to not go to the parties, or if they didn't have the ability to not participate in what was going on. Guys, so many people knew about Diddy. So many people knew what he was into. When you heard the testimony from Cassie during the whole trial, she knew what she was doing because she was actually a part of it. It was basically like she was the Bonnie to his Clyde. Like they were together doing a thing. So everything on like with the women, their feelings, and like they say, you have a mother, you have a daughter, you have a sister, you have an aunt. You wouldn't want them to be treated that way. You're absolutely right. But as a dad, there's no way in hell I'm going to allow my child to be with a man like that. Same thing with the whole R. Kelly instance. So many people were trying to say, you wouldn't want your daughter to do that and all this different things, right? Well, guys, who the fuck would give their child, their daughter, to a man that has a reputation for dealing with little girls? Who would do that? So why aren't the parents being held responsible for any of these things? Doesn't make sense now, does it? Now, back to here. Why wouldn't my daughter be in a situation like that? Or why would I allow her to be in a situation like that? If my aunties or whoever, if they are putting themselves in those type of situations and they're staying there on their own free will, how can I say anything? I can't. They're choosing to stay in that situation. You feel what I'm saying? Now, let's see what she has to say, because she said, they failed us and how she feel and everything like that. So we're going to see what she really on.
we step back 20 years, I feel like they sent a message about what they care about. Celebrity, money, power, influence, flunkies.
I want y'all to also remember how she's saying all this, but let's not forget, everybody on YouTube that's building their channel, that's building their brand, they're also building influence to where they can actually influence people with their word or their opinion and sway you to believe a certain thing. So what she's talking about, she's literally building the same thing to have that influence, to have that money, to have that power, to be able to do things. Now, they'll say it, oh, I'm doing it for the greater good. If that's what you want to believe, sure. But at the end of the day, you're building it to have influence, to have power, to be able to sway people and to believe what you believe. So don't sit there and just try to bitch and complain about that when you're literally doing the same thing, influence-wise.
I feel like this is a travesty, okay? I know that there are a lot of Diddy supporters that are
She has pretty
celebrating,
eyes.
But they're not even celebrating for Diddy. They're celebrating that wealth, that depravity, that violence could live another day. They're celebrating that they're idle, that in their beds while they sit there and wonder why their lives turned out, that they're idle, someone they hope for, they aspire to be. Someone that as he gets not guilty, he's not even going to say 2 words to these people. They are celebrating.
Who the fuck idolizes Diddy? Like have y'all ever heard somebody say, oh, I want to grow up and be just like Diddy? Like, nobody's idolizing him. Nobody's happy talking about some violence and all. It's so crazy when people express their opinions and sometimes they go to the most extreme, especially like if it's a woman reporting on anything dealing with a man, especially if they're like successful or wealthy. They go to the absolute extremes, and this is one of those cases. Oh, they're happy because their idol, who they want to grow up to be, is free. No, what the fuck are you talking about?
The fact that the man, the myth, the legend, someone that they looked up to, that their idol was set free. You guys, let's get into this. First of all, I do want to say I feel for all the victims that came forward, and I feel for all the victims that actually came forward and testified, that put their lives, that shared the most humiliating parts of their life to be picked apart, to be mocked, to be laughed at. In the closing arguments, while the jury was sitting there giggling, while Mark Agnifilo was saying Cassie's gangster and she could take 2 or 3 people, and my heart goes out to the victims that actually came forward. And my heart goes out to the future victims that saw what happened, that saw what money and power bought. And my heart goes out to those people that put themselves on the line.
Don't forget, she said that money and power bought, but yeah, Cassie just walked away with 30 mil and she got immunity, even though she was a part of this whole thing, even though they have a whole video, recording of her saying, if you don't give me that video, I'm gonna kill you. I'm not gonna be the one to do it, but you definitely gonna get handled. And let's not forget none of that. Remember, all these people are just such victims, but nobody came out until all these years later. Now, I'm not victim shaming whatsoever, but you're not about to sit here and tell me you gonna sit here and wait 10, 15, 20, 30 years and, oh my God, my life were just so horrible and this happened to me. Bro, a lot of people don't even remember what the hell happened last week. So now, I'm not saying if a traumatic situation happened to you, you're not gonna remember that. I'm not saying that whatsoever. But you're not gonna sit here and tell me you're gonna just hold this in forever and ever and ever on something that happened, and you want this person to be prosecuted, legally under the law, but yet you're not gonna say absolutely nothing. Like, and then there's all these victims, but then nobody says anything. It's like, nah, bro. And once again, the only reason all of this popped off was simply because Cassie wanted money.
Only to get this. People are cheering for someone they didn't even know. People are cheering at the fact that someone that they would never let their daughter, their sister, their mother, their father, their brother, their friend be treated like that. But again, it is what it is. The prosecution is saying they are going to go for the maximum sentence, which carries 20 years. The judge is charged with sentencing. There's a chance that he could be out on probation. Now, I'm going to take you into the courtroom. What happened? Of course, listen, looking back. So I know what you guys are thinking. What happened? Because I am in shock.
She's so emotional, she can't even get a full, clear thought out.
Found the prostitution, but that's because there was no way you could get around it. You found the you found the prostitution because there was no way to get around it. But for everything else, the arson, the kidnapping, the beatings, you found that this man wasn't guilty. This puts everything else in the holdouts. The holdouts, they were the ones fighting the good fight. They were the ones that said, no, I think he's guilty of something. But at the end, they went with the... What is this said? A jury of between 40-year-olds and 71-year-olds, and they came back and they delivered their view of the world. She tried to hold the jury. But when you look at it, their view of the world,
she said there's some old farts.
The world looks like it is. It's why the world looks like it does. It's why these monsters can still move forward. They literally use their better judgment to come back and ignore what we have learned about victims of SA, about ask yourself why sex trafficking has not been eradicated. This is the reason why. Ask yourself why victims don't come forward, and ask yourself, right? I think that much like you, the jury very ignorant, acted ignorantly, and have ignorant. No, I'm saying the way you came up on me is ignorant. Baby, here I am. I think I'm on live right now, okay? Worry about your little channel, sweetie. What's that? Diddy is still not gonna let you suck his dick, baby.
That's crazy. Let's go to another one, man.
Now, a small crowd, of course, has gathered outside the courthouse since the beginning of the Combs trial. And once the verdict came down today, that crowd grew even bigger, prompting the NYPD to put some safety measures in place.
Yeah, with that part of our story, Eyewitness News reporter Anthony Carlo is live in Lower Manhattan and continues our coverage. Anthony.
Sandra, Liz, music, fashion, alcohol. Seems like there's no industry that Sean Diddy Combs hasn't touched. The cameras and the crowds are to be expected. In fact, he's pretty used to them, but nothing quite like this. From the people packed behind barricades to the waving around of bottles of baby oil, the spectacle was certainly on brand for someone as big as Diddy.
Diddy was somebody that we definitely looked up to and admired for his business acumen and all that kind of stuff, you know?
The media frenzy has followed Sean Combs and his family into this chapter of fame. Cheers and jeers as his children and his mother made their way into and out of the courthouse. What does verdict day mean for Diddy's legacy?
Legacy is ruined. They you know, and 10 years from now, any of my grandkids look back at Bad Boy, all they're gonna hear about is these things here.
I would have probably voted not guilty on everything, only because I feel that the government overcharged and overreached.
It doesn't change my view on Diddy because I know that he's not a good man. He's not a good man.
The reaction just as
And I don't think nobody will argue that.
mixed as the verdict itself. Make no mistake, this is not a happy day, even for fans.
Yeah, I definitely was a fan. You know, what he's done in the music industry. I mean, there's so many positive things that he's brought, right?
Monica says this case and this trial and this publicity has revealed the dark side of an icon.
I'm seeing kind of the response of like baby oil everywhere and like people kind of making light of the situation. It actually scares me to think that people can think that they can get away with more pain for, you know, women, children, you know, just things that shouldn't be happening.
It's always so crazy that it's always one-sided. Always one-sided. Because if this was, let's say hypothetically it was flipped, if it was Cassie and Diddy, and let's say Cassie was on trial, I guarantee they won't be saying none of what they saying. Guarantee it.
This man is probably getting out of jail, like, soon. Like, probably when they sentence him, he's getting out. It's probably gonna be time served. And the part that really, really hurts my feelings, like I said, I was like, whoa, because this is what I predicted. Anybody, again, I got wealthy friends, they was like, he got so much money, he was paying $3 million a month for his attorneys, y'all. $3 million a month for his attorneys. That's money. But again, does that help us? No. So why we would get our own $3 million so that if something happened to us, we have our money. That's one way to look at it, right? Nakia says house arrest. Nakia Dowdy, right? Probably house arrest is what he's gonna get. Probably he needs to go live in his mansion. He might get house arrest. I actually think he probably.
My question is, are they mad? Like, they mad at the verdict? They mad because he had the money to pay an astronomical amount for his defense? Like, because the charges that he was charged, with, you know, 3 of them was not guilty, the Rico, everything like that. He only got charged with 2 counts of prostitution. So I want to know what everybody, like, what are they really mad at? Is it the fact that, oh, he hit a woman and then he didn't get prosecuted for that? Or was it that he, like which one is it? Because he did get found guilty on two counts. So it's not like he walking away scot-free. So which one they are? They want him to just get charged with absolutely everything, and because of the way that they feel, and that's just that? Like, what is it? Like, do you want a dude to go to prison for something that he shouldn't have been charged for, really? Now, if it was the DV once again, all right, cool, you got that one for sure. But all the other charges, nah. Honestly, Cassie should be, if that's the case, Cassie should be right there with him getting charged as well, because she's not a victim.
Spoke to an Indianapolis attorney and former federal prosecutor who tried sex trafficking cases about her reaction to today's decision. Listen.
Two types of reactions that I had. First, you have respect for the jury who sat and who listened to the evidence in this case, weeks and weeks of evidence. And I think, though, as someone who is wholly supportive of survivors of sex crimes and sex trafficking, this verdict is devastating. That you could see a woman literally beaten on a video as part of an incident of sex trafficking, that you could hear testimony from a completely independent witness saying, I watched her be beaten as part of this freak off, and that's not sex trafficking. It's a devastating verdict.
So the fact that she actually wanted to do it, that none of that counts, right? Okay. But guys, anyway, let me know what y'all think in the comments. Let me know if y'all think I'm wrong or right, or however you feel. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I'll get at y'all next time. Peace.